Hey guys, it's Julie from Plan to Create, and I wanted to take a minute and share with you a new release that I have brought to my shop. It is released in the half letter and A5 sizes, and at this point those are the only two that I am bringing to my shop. They're very similar, so once I've designed one I can just slightly modify it and do the other. But yeah, I wanted to give you guys a peek at it and kind of share with you from the beginning to the end how I am using these inserts inside my planner. So I wanted to go over the fact that it is a familiar friend. We have the halfsies, that's nothing new. I've had that in my shop, but I retired the previous version and just made a few adjustments that I wanted to point out to you today. So first things first, this column is not gridded. I felt like that was something that I could use to kind of deco or stickers, and I'm really into the transparent. And so I kind of like the idea of it not having the grid underneath, but I just thought I would try something new here. I've also changed a little bit of the format down here. So I still do love some concentrated lists. I feel like one big to-do list to me is very overwhelming. I like to break it down by the different categories that work for me in my life. I have left them blank for the Etsy listing, but I have personalized them for myself here that you'll see. I have home, to do, errands to buy. I left this one blank for myself just to kind of flex with the different needs that each week might have. And over here you'll see something familiar from the homebody inserts that I recently listed in my shop. I decided that I wanted to bring that tracking over to the week on 2-page halvesies. So I love this space for a week number and then some room to write in just 3 things to focus on, to really, dial in on and accomplish throughout the week. Then I have this column here that has the 7 days of the week. And then I actually did divide it. I had it just as one basic line at first, but I thought, that's an extra space. I could track one more thing, and I wanted to add my steps here. So that's what I do. Here I have kind of a creative section for any projects that I'm working on that I want to film or, just complete. And then I have my incoming section for any packages that I'm expecting throughout the week. Okay, so the other thing that I like to do, you're gonna see when you order this in half letter, it prints out back to back and it feels a little awkward and out of order, but once you cut it, it becomes clear that this is the first page. It's kind of my bookend that I have here, and this is the final one. In previous styles, I've just had the grid both front and back that you could absolutely customize to whatever you personally needed, but I have recently been adopting a little bit more tracking. I'm going to walk you through that in a second here, but I did want to point out that that is something that does appear differently on this version of the halvesies. So I'm gonna go ahead and just punch these up, get them going, show you how quick and easy that is. I did notice that this trimmer was recently restocked over at scrapbook.com. That's where I've purchased it. I haven't ever been able to find it through Amazon, and it's just such a beast. You're gonna see I'm just simply lining this up at 5.5. 5.5 is half of letter size paper. One simple cut. Then I just slide these into my Levenger punch. And voila, I have that front page tracker. I have actually 5 weeks, and you can always pull out one of those sheets if you don't need it for that month. But in order to get the printing right so that there's, double-sided on everything, I do include that extra sheet, and it's there in case you make a big oopsie and need it. And then you'll see it finally folds out to that grid. In full disclosure, I have actually been using these inserts like in pencil, completely basic and not very decorative at all. Because I am kind of juggling between the Hobonichi cousin and my half letter, and I'm still kind of working out where I want what. So I'll give you a quick glimpse at what mine actually look like. I am going to do a slightly beefed up version for you guys, just in an effort to be a little bit more inspiring. But I wanted to point out that you definitely can just use them like this. I've just written in everything in pencil here. The dates, I just wrote it in pencil. You're absolutely fine, especially if you're just getting started in a new insert. I highly encourage you to take a week or two, pencil it in, see what works for you, because you might want to lay it out differently midweek, and this gives you that flexibility of doing that. There are some holes here, and I think I mentioned that I'm juggling back and forth between my cousin and this. So I'm going to try to pull it all together, kind of like what I have here in my half letter, as well as what I have in my Hobonichi cousin. And you'll get the full week's presentation as I'm done with this plan with me. But I did want to share that it can be so simple, you guys. You don't have to start off with the decorative stuff, and I wanted to be fair and share that this has worked for me pretty well. Okay, so instead of me actually going through and sharing how I would set up the routine tracker, I'm actually just going to share what I've done here. I like to take the Saturdays and Sundays and just take my Tombow marker to highlight that. I have really been enjoying the Zig Clean Dot Gray, and I just come through and I mark what I've done throughout the day, and then I have just been doing the lines, and of course I get them mixed up every now and then and I get squirrely going the wrong way. But I do just like to have the lines on there. It kind of can create a fun little zigzag. So I thought I would just kind of give you a glimpse. That's how I have been using it this month, and it ends up being kind of fun and colorful. I obviously assigned different colors for the different types of workouts that I'm doing, so I used that notes section for that. But this is also available, like if you wanted to look back at your month and be like, hey, you know, here's 3 things that I could probably stand to work on, or 3 things that I could maybe step back from, whichever way you're working on those routines or habits. But that's how that's looking. And now I will just dive into the actual weekly plans. Okay, so like you saw before, it could be as simple as just coming through with a pencil or a pen and just writing in the dates. But of course, for this, I will just give you a little bit of ideas of how I might use them. I also just had someone in my Facebook group ask about some options for stamps for dating year planners, and I wanted to show these. This is one that I use often. It's called Just the Numbers from Studio L2E. It's a cute little set. The size of it is very, you know, petite for planners. This one is called the Double Digits Small, and it's from Carrie Bradford Studios. I don't have affiliate links with either of these. These are just favorites of mine that, you know, I wanted to share. So just putting those out there. For this week, I think I'll go ahead and use the Just the Numbers. Okay, I've been super obsessed with these stickers from Lightly Inked, and I'm super obsessed also with these colors from the Stamp Market. So this week, I think I'm going to test out this salmon color. If I end up using any stickers from Lightly Inked, then they will match nicely. So I'm going to just give that a shot. I did put the date slightly offset so that we can tuck that number here over to the side and then still have some room to write. One thing I do love about stamps that I've mentioned before is that you can write over them, of course, so it's not like a sticker that you have to avoid. You could write a full day event right over that ink. Even if I were to add no other color to my pages, what a fun pop that does. It took me all of like a minute and a half. Obviously, I zoomed it up a little bit for you guys, but it's just such a fun way to add a little bit of pizzazz to your pages and just make them fun to look at as you tackle your tasks throughout the week. Dragging out all the planners right now, but I recently shared in a video about setting up a monthly page and kind of assigning a task to each and every space. I took like my grid squares and I decided like here is where I will write appointments, here is where I will keep track of bills or paydays. If we have travel, I'm going to put a washi strip or a color line through that. And then finally, a meal plan section. So I mention all of this just to say that it's really becoming clear to me how important it is for me to assign some space in my planners. You'll see that in all of my weekly Hobonichi pages where I definitely assign space. I'm also basically doing that here by categorizing each of my lists. So it's like I have this safe place where I know where I can find information week after week, but also where I can place information in the weeks ahead. So I'm learning that that's become pretty important to me. And so in the spirit of that, there's certain things that I like to track here on my pages. You know, I have a tracker, but I also want to do hydration. So I'm kind of thinking ahead here to like, how do I want to divvy out these days so it's not just sporadic, so I know where to find the information week after week. So I actually have never done this before, but I'm going to save a line here at the top for travel or for an all-day event. I often will write all-day events in this space up here, but I'm actually going to save at least one little line there so I have that if I need it. Then I'm going to do my hydration, then I'm going to do my workout, then I have my appointments and my like basically my daily schedule. At the bottom I'll have room for meals, and I've saved like 3 lines worth in case I want to use my meal plan stamp, because that is another fun way to kind of add some interest on my pages. So I'm going to come through with this cute little clean color dot. I feel like that adds a really fun element onto my page, like cute little dots. It's almost decorative, but it's also super functional. So I've really enjoyed adding that to the top of my pages. It's kind of a demarcation. And I didn't do it on that first line because I've saved some room there in case something all-day event I want to add on there, or I have room to add any travel, which just so happens that I can actually do that next. My husband was out of town for a little bit this week, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put that up here. I like to keep track of that, and I could use the thin washi strips from the planner spot that's a perfect size that would fit up there. But here I'm just sharing, like you can also just use the Tombos and just have that nice mark up there. I managed to mark down below too. Fantastic. So in my Hobonichi, I actually did a couple more dots for a couple other things I wanted to track, but because I have this nice tracker here, I don't need to do that. So I can just go ahead and add them here. And it's kind of nice not to have to write it 7 times. I am going to come through and do my meal plan. I'm going to use this cute little blush. In my last video, I used my Tombow marker to color, but today I'm just going to come through. Ooh, maybe not. That's really not existent, is it? Shoot, super light. I'm going to do a little bit darker. I'm going to use this Mango. I feel like that will go nicely with stickers that I want to eventually add on here. That blush color is really pretty, and if I had a more solid image that I was trying to stamp, it would be a great color. But because this is such a fine line stamp, I just feel like going with a little bit darker color is the better option here. Also, we'll just do a quick check and show that, you know, no inks are bleeding through, tiny bit of shadowing, nothing that bothers me. But I like to point that out so people can know what they're getting into. If I had wanted to go a little bit pinker, this cheeky color would have been really pretty here too. Like it would have been slightly lighter, I think, than the salmon. So just, you know, it's fun to have a few options, and these little cubes are so fun because they're great for these little stamps. They're perfect. Next up, I am just going to come through with this Tombow. I'm going to use the smaller end, and I'm just going to go down a couple of lines and reserve space here for my workout. And I am such a work in progress. I'm still really trying to dial into those like morning routines where I'm getting my first hydration of the day. I have my coffee, my Wordle, but also a workout and have that all wrapped up, clean, showered, and ready to go at a certain time of day. Our schedule is just super light and flexible, so it's so tempting just to faff. I just learned a new word from Tracy. Just to faff away my time by doing absolutely nothing. And so I'm just having these reminders up here at the beginning of my day to ideally kind of prod me in the direction of where I really want to go in the long run, not where I just want to go in that moment. So this area is just like, it's there, it's open, it's screaming at me, but I'm going to hold off on that one for a sec because I really do want to get like the actual meat down. And I didn't do my week number yet. So I haven't tried this one yet. I haven't even opened this set, but I'm thinking this in that lighter blush color might be pretty. So this is an example, like it will show up, it's a little bit bigger, bolder. Hopefully it will show up a little bit better, but also it will kind of nest inside that space. I have that little blush, but I also have this larger one, and I think because the stamp is slightly larger, I would like to get it all kind of inked up. Just a lot of little taps. These are pretty inky, so you don't need a ton. I'm like really lightly tapping. Again, I'm just going to test stamp. I hate surprises. I don't know why, I'm a big old chicken. And then we'll do 40 here. Okay, so that's cute. So keep in mind, you saw my first example where it was just pencil and just simple, absolutely doable. It is fun to come through and jazz these up a tiny bit though too. I feel like I have like 2 appointments this week. It's pretty light, so I am going to just quickly come through and add those in. And then I kind of take this section that's available and kind of look at it in terms of like morning, midday, evening. So I just aim for kind of midday here for a noon appointment. Okay, I have the luxury of coming through and like writing things in because I already know what happened because I'm basically back planning this as a sample for you guys. But I am going to come through now quickly and I'm going to write in, kind of share the lists that I had brewing this week, and then I'll try to share like where I plugged things in above. So you can see like this is the schedule I'm working with, so I have all these like open spaces. Can't say that I'm always the most productive with those spaces. Shared that in our Facebook group. I think that resonates with several of you. You know, we can plan out our days, and then it's kind of really the trick is in using up this open space wisely, right? And I'm not here to say that I do that on the regular. I'm here to say that I try. And so I'm going to go through and I'm just going to start to fill out these lists below, and you'll kind of see that some of those things, I'll talk you through how like some of those things, where they appeared in my weekly schedule. I don't have an electrician that I just know and love, so I've had this stupid item on my list and it did not get done this week. It's going to migrate again. It's frustrating, but I do just have this like simple little task, couple of little tasks that we need to get done, and I just need a go-to guy. So I have compiled some things from my Hobonichi cousin, some things from my half letters, which is eye-opening for me. I definitely need to find a spot that I come to write down these ideas to get them out of my head, because working between two books in that format, it's not going to work for me long term. I need to have a go-to spot. So it's just hard. I just haven't quite decided which direction I'm heading yet. So this week I am kind of compiling together. I've actually run out of room for a couple of things. I had a couple more things I needed to buy. So I'm actually going to put them into my to-do list instead of my to-buy. In this share column, you'll see that I'm writing down basically an after the fact of what I have done versus what I'm going to post. And I used to have like a better schedule of like, hey, on Mondays I share a fave or a fail. I would like to get back into the habit. I just feel like our schedule has been sporadic. If I'm not home, it's hard for me to snap a picture. So, you know, excuses, but I would like to get a little bit more proactive on that. Right now, it's a little bit more like, hey, here's what I did. And then now the idea is to go through, and where I have space is to kind of take some of these tasks and fill them in. So I will kind of show you how that worked for me this week. Okay, so you see, like I filmed December plan with me there. You guys, I talked so much and I said so much extra information, so I had to kind of refilm a little bit more on Saturday. That was annoying, but I have like so much I want to share with you guys, and it's so hard for me to condense it that was a little bit of a disaster. But I got it done. So technically, I didn't even really have that on here, but I can say that was something else that I worked on. And that was in my half letter. Boom. Ideally, the things down here drive the schedule, but periodically I just kind of get a wild hair and I do the things and then we jot them down. So just keeping it real. So I give myself a check mark if I actually do the workout. Skipped. I didn't run, but I walked that day. Ran this day. Walked this day. And I love putting rest on Sunday because it's like I can always give myself a check mark for that, or I can work out. So I will go ahead. It's like all I have to do is rest. So anything else is just gravy. Now I have some things that I haven't necessarily written down when I did them throughout the week, but I did accomplish them, so I'm going to scratch through those really quick. Okay, I'm just coming through and checking off my hydration. I have that marked off in my Hobonichi, so I am just transferring that information. So I hope that that gives you guys an idea of how I would use these pages. I feel like they are very functional. I hope that they're functional for you guys. I would love to know like kind of what your categories are. I'm always like curious to know. I think that Kelsey has already had me customize hers, so I've added her headers there that specifically work for her. She had some really good ones, like doing her workouts, what she needed to clean, you know, work versus home. So it's really fun for me to get to see that, how you guys are doing it. Aside from the 3 things that I've stamped here, you'll see there is literally 0 decoration, and I'm totally okay with that. These days, my planner pages are really the place where I like to work out some of these ideas, to have a place to jot down some of the things that are in my head that just come up to me at 4 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. So it's just such a good spot for me to get these down. Obviously, I have my little checkmark stickers there, and I think it's fun. Like if I wanted to come through and And, you know, I think it's nice sometimes to see appointments with a mark here versus just the other things. So I could come through and, you know, share what things were actually like time specific, which really there wasn't a ton of things like that for me this week, but there were a few. So that's kind of nice to be able to see. And as I'm planning, sometimes I add stickers and sometimes I don't. Obviously, it's just so much quicker when you just need to get information down just to go ahead and just slap it on there. I don't mind coming through and, you know, adding a little filming sticker, and sometimes I'll overlap it with another color or something. I did a fair share of filming this week, and I'm really happy that I got all of my plants potted. I decided to do that yesterday morning. I did all my own drip tubing, so they turned out really pretty. I should share a picture because I really like the way that they look, and it's so nice to have some color. I love to overlap a clear sticker with that dot. I think that that's kind of fun to do that. Cute little pause for my cat's grooming appointment. I mean, really. And then last, I have this space and I could do a sidebar here. Because it's after the fact, I feel like I won't probably. You can see my sidebar that I built in my Hobonichi Cousins. I have a space to track my steps there. And then I just got to enjoy this beautiful sticker all week, which I absolutely loved. So I feel like I'm gonna throw that on, something like that on here. Because the colors I used, I'm really wanting to use one of these beautiful stickers. And I think I'm gonna just go for like this nice big long one. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay it down kind of purposefully. Oops, please, please, please. Okay, it's gonna go off the page there, and I am okay with that. Oops. So would have ideally maybe not overlapped onto the check mark there. But I'll just trim that little section off, no problem. And that's beautiful. Okay, so wow, and then I might do a tiny little one over here in the corner to balance it out, kind of coming in from the side. There. And that is a wrap. And I know that it seems a little weird that I would use these beautiful supplies on here, but keep in mind, I'll be able to take a photo of this, stick it up in my Etsy shop as a sample showing you guys how I use it. I also have the sample, I believe, of just my pencil version. So I like to show both extremes, you know, some functional and some decorative. And aside from all the beautiful things, I hope that you guys see a glimpse of how functional these pages are and how easy they are to plan out your weeks and to kind of get some of these ideas out of your head and onto paper and then into action. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I would really love to hear from you, so take a second and comment below and let me know if there was an idea that really clicked for you or if there's something else that you would like to see in the future. I would love to hear from you guys. All right, take care.